Hi everybody. Today I'm going to talk about different types of clay that are available to use for your projects. So there is usually three types of clay that you can buy in the market, especially in Indonesia. Okay, uh, these two. Well, the most common, probably the one that you see a lot and people use a lot, is called dust. It's dust air dry clay. So this thing, it's it's inside the wrapping. It's very wrapped tightly, no air in it. After you mold it, so it's when you open it and it's fresh, it's plastic. You can shape it and change the shapes and do whatever you want to make with it. But it is basically a fiber-based clay. So it's maybe paper fiber or a type of paper that is mixed with some type of glue that will harden in the when it's dry. So when it dries, it become hard like this. You can cut it, you can carve it, you can sandpaper it, but it is not food safe. So it's basically just like paper pulp mixed with glue. Okay, kind of like paper mache maybe. Okay, very similar to paper mache. So this is called air dry clay, and this is what it looks like. So I wouldn't recommend you making things that you want to use for drinking or eating out of with this stuff, because it's basically just paper and glue. Okay, hardened glue. And I did try. I had a bag that was open and it wasn't closed properly, so the whole bag got hardened. So I did try soak it in water for like few days, and then kind of mush it around, knead it, and it's possible to make it workable again. So it's not completely waterproof either when it's dry. If you soak this in water a long time, it can become soft again. Okay, it'll need a lot of work, but you can do that. So it's not, if you accidentally lift it to dry and it's completely dry, you can still use it with a lot of work. Okay, so it's air dry clay. But these things, you cannot use it in the kiln. So it's not like natural clay. Natural clay, we'll talk about it later. That needs a special kiln, a special oven that goes to very high temperature. Okay, so none of your house oven would work, because those will only goes maximum maybe 250 degrees Celsius. With ceramic clay, you need at least 700, 800 degrees Celsius. Even then, that's a very soft biscuit firing clay. So you need, the best is probably 1,000 and 1,000 over degrees Celsius. Okay. Another type of clay, it's the polymer clay. Okay, so polymer clay, it's made with a type of plastic. So it's a plastic-based clay, oil-based clay, and it comes in many different brands and kinds. You know, like some of the famous one is Super Sculpey or Sculpey. Has a white color, has a cream color, I think. Maybe there are some black colors. There's another famous brand is Fimo, which come with many colors. So all kinds of colors you want to find, you can. There's even a transparent, kind of transparency, opaque kind of transparent clay. There's also gold, silver, not as luster as a real gold, but it comes with all kinds of color. These things kind of works like a natural clay. Is that you need to heat it up to make it harden, but it's only, you only need about, so it says here you need about 130 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. Okay, so this you can use in your home oven, like the oven you use to toast your bread. Okay, it will harden like a plastic like this. It comes like this, Super Sculpey, Fimo, Sculpey 3, there's many different kinds. It will harden like plastic. So if you overfire it, you overheat it up, it might start bubbling up on the surface. Okay, you can also wrap it up in aluminum foil and then heat gun. So it only needs about 100 50 degrees Celsius for about 15 minutes, depending on how thick and how big your project is. Okay, these are also not food safe, so they are good for jewelry or things that are not for food. Okay, there is another okay, this one. So the green stuff is made from this type polymer clay. So it's like a plastic based clay that needs to be heated up to 150 to make it permanent. Okay, and it's not reversible, so you cannot do anything else to it to make it go back to its plastic stage. It becomes a permanent plastic thing once it's already heated up to 150 degrees Celsius, right? There's another type, kind of similar to this, but it's usually used for plumbing. So this is one brand. It's from putty. It has a part A and part B, and they are both like clay-like material. So you take the same amount each, and then you mix it up until it's become one color, homogeneous. It's mixed properly, yeah, mixed thoroughly to become one, and then you can shape it, and it'll take about 5 to 10 minutes to start hardening by itself. So it's a reaction between these two, the clay material and the hardener, right? You mix it 2 parts, you shape it and leave it dry in about 10 minutes. It will become hard, right? Then after that you can sand it, you can do whatever. So people use this for plumbing if there's a leak, or some people use it for aquascape, you know, for aquarium, to attach the corals to each other. They'll use these things. So they are not, I guess it's safe for fish, according to some of the people that already use it. But I still wouldn't use this for something that I will put in my mouth or touching my anything that's gonna be ingested. Okay, so that's it. Now this is ceramic clay. So they call it natural clay. These are the things that you will dig up on the side of the road, by the mountain, by the lake bank. All right, these are natural clay, so they are actually decomposed granite. All right, the more pure one are porcelain clay, which is completely white. So that's the most pure form of clay, I guess, right? But the other stuff that you usually get are the one that already get mixed up with other elements, minerals from the earth as it's being washed through the lake and waterbed and rain and all this stuff, right? And most of the earth surface is covered with this stuff, so you can probably dig anywhere and get something similar to clay. So it's natural clay. It's you have to add water to make it soft. So once the water leaves, it becomes very dry, very hard, but brittle. So it becomes weak, right? The one that you can buy in the store in Indonesia, that's very easy to find in Tokopedia and stuff like that, would be the Citra clay. So Tanah Liat Citra clay, pure natural clay. This is a 1,000 gram. I think they sell it also in a 500 gram package. It costs somewhere around 20 to 25,000, I think, per 1 kg. It says it can be fired to 1,400 degrees Celsius. So that is the maximum temperature it can go to, 1,400 degrees Celsius, right? There are other brands which are not as common, not easy to find, like Degoya natural clay. This you can get in some of the specialty art store, and it says this one can be fired to 1,000 to 1,200 degrees Celsius. They come in 3 colors from what I know. So natural clay, gray, white, and there is another one that's terracotta color. But again, it's not as easy to find, and sometimes you have to test them, because most of these clays, sometimes they come, the instruction says it goes to 1,200, but I did fire to my kiln, which goes to, usually I fire to 1,100 degrees Celsius, and these clays actually started melting. All right, so it becomes like that. It was actually a student work of mine. She was making cactus for rings, and they all slump, so they are starting to melt, right? So if a natural clay, you need a special kiln to fire it, because the firing itself is quite special. You need to go slow, which usually this kind of clay just not takes like 15 minutes to make it set, and you only need 150 degrees Celsius. But natural clay needs a chemical reaction, a change in the chemistry of the clay itself, the crystal structure, to become permanent, and it needs at least 500, 600 degrees Celsius, right? Most people will fire the lowest to 700, 800 degrees Celsius. That is like bricks, red bricks, soft red bricks. Those are quite low fire. And then it goes all the way up to like 1,300, 1,400 for like pure porcelain, right? But then again, when you're playing with natural clay, each pottery, if you don't have your own kiln, you need to buy the clay that they use. Like let's say you want to make a project and you want to ask those people to fire for you or pay a service for the pottery. To some pottery do that, like they accept firing, all right? But they usually always have the rule that you have to buy the clay that they use, okay? So you need to buy the clay from them, so they know exactly that the clay will withstand the temperature that they usually fire to. And also when you start glazing, like with natural clay, after you fire it, like the red one will turn kind of like this color, and we call this bisque firing. So this one has been fired to 1,000 degrees, 1,100 degrees Celsius, and it has become permanent. So this will not change anymore. You can bury it for 1,000 years, you dig it up, it will still look the same, right? So that's why a lot of artifacts that you find are all potteries are from natural clay. The white clay will turn out like that, all right? And then if you want to make it shiny like this, you need to put glaze on it. So after it's already been bisque fired, usually you have to cover it with this kind of solution of glass powder, right? After you coat the whole thing, you wipe the bottom off, then you have to fire it again until the glaze solution melts and become like this. So there's a covering of glass, and this become if the glaze that you use is a safe glaze, it doesn't contain anything toxic for you, it'll be safe to use for drinking, eating out of. It can even be put on a microwave, right? Some of the ceramics are also safe to be used on open flame, but usually you need to fire it slowly from room temperature. It cannot be shocked, like it cannot be from a cold temperature goes into a hot. You would have a thermal shock and crack. Okay, but most ceramics can be used on open flame if you do it, if you increase the fire gradually on the stove, right? So clay, like a red clay that has no glaze, it looks like this, right? But again, the pottery that you're gonna ask them to fire the work for you will have their own composition of clay that works with their glaze, because each glaze, each ceramics, each clay, type of clay will have its own characteristic, their shrinkage, their expansion, contraction. So those things need to fit each other to make it work. So you cannot just anyhow buy any clay or dig up some clay and try to fire it. It may cause a lot of problems for that pottery. You can destroy a lot of expensive equipments or kiln furnitures and all that stuff, okay? Like imagine if you fire things and they all melted and touch other people's work, or sticking on the kiln shelf, which is quite expensive, all right? So you don't want to do that. Like these things, they are all actually started off from small little balls of heads that luckily I fired it on a cup that can withstand the temperature, so it doesn't go all over the place, doesn't stick to anywhere, it just stick inside. So it melted all together like that. And this is actually a good, it's not so bad a case, but sometimes it just like melt everywhere and sticks everywhere, so destroying a lot of people's work, right? And there's also that the glaze, if it's for food, related product, drinking, eating out of, you have to make sure that the pottery is using food safe glaze, and firing it to a food safe temperature. The clay need to be vitrified to be considered as safe for food. All right, like things like this, when it has already like crackle like this, a lot of people don't think that's safe enough for food, because some of the germs can go into the cracks and grow in there, so you're actually eating like little toxic at a time, right? So that's it for today. All right, thank you.